I love those intros, Rhonda. Thank you. We have a very, very exciting guest today who, yes, she's going to share with us about alpacas and about reflexology. But in listening to them when we met and this morning, you see, Suzanne comes from not very far away from Rhonda, like neighbor close. They are sitting there talking about things. I feel so warm and cuddly, like I'm sitting in the living room having tea with them. So I would like to invite all of you to come in. Bring your coffee, your tea, your water. Come in and sit with us, and we're going to enjoy a beautiful conversation. Go to our YouTube, subscribe and like and comment. Come to our page on Facebook and same thing. And so welcome in. And I had a little smudge going, but it already went out. But anyway, sending it all around. So glad to see you all. Come on in, Caress. So, Suzanne, this is exciting what you do. So, first, I want to know how was your journey of wakening up to bring you to here now? You know what I
To
mean?
my journey to reflexology.
Yeah, what
Good
was that
morning,
like?
afternoon, evening, everyone, wherever you are. Um, I led a very demanding life and became quite ill at one point, and was not able to benefit as much from allopathic medicine as my doctor would have liked, but took on some alternative routes to well-being, and ended up having such success with it that when I was finally well enough, I went back to school and became a practitioner of several different disciplines. The one we're talking about today is reflexology,
Wow, wow, I
and I
love
love
that.
it. It's
That's
been
beautiful.
25 years.
Ah, that's awesome.
Have
Wow.
you always had like a I know there's more than that to you. So have you always had a connection to other things as well? Have you always been intuitive?
Yes. So I mean, I can't remember a time when I wasn't. And when I hear about people who don't feel that way, that comes as a shock because it's been such a natural part of my life since as far back as I can remember. Not always, as I'm sure you all have experienced, not always thrilled by, the family's not always thrilled about it, especially as a child when you come out with things that they just don't have context for.
Right.
And you end up being that kid in the family, but if you can hang on to that kid until you're an adult, it serves you very, very well.
I
Absolutely.
think we all need more of that kid in us all the time. All
I
the
couldn't
time.
agree more. Yeah.
They
Mhm.
I,
always called me that damn kid. When does that still work? No.
I was trying to be
That
polite.
too. That too. I mean, being able to find the curiosity and excitement in it, and not feeling so intimidated by it, like they try to make you feel, because of course they don't understand it, so they try to shut it down, and all you're trying to do is express yourself and what you're experiencing.
And it scares them. It's something that people don't understand. They find frightening. So the
Absolutely.
best way to cope with that overall, particularly when you're looking after a family, is just to shut it down.
Hmm. And so that
Happily,
led
there
you.
were
Go ahead.
happily there were other generations in the family who were old enough to know differently,
Hmm.
and who quietly encouraged all the way along and said, "Yep,
Absolutely.
we get it."
I
oh,
love that.
did you have grandparents that helped you along, like grandmothers?
I did. One grandmother. The other one was completely the opposite. But one
Hmm.
grandmother,
I always seems
a
there's always one,
couple of
right? Both ways.
couple of yeah, couple of my aunts, and also my grandfather. He nurtured my connection to the land and my ability to listen to the creature beings that we share it with,
That's
Oh,
as well
that's
as
beautiful.
neat.
anything outside. Yeah,
And you've carried that forward in your life now, because we were
sure
just
have.
chatting about how you worked in an alpaca farm, and I remember seeing your posts about the alpaca farm, going, "Oh, I love alpacas. I wish I could have
Hmm.
some," but apparently they don't like horses, so I couldn't.
It depends. I mean, just like dogs and cats, you have individuals. It can be hard to generalize. If you've had one alpaca that's had a nasty experience with a horse, then, or the horse has had a nasty experience with the alpaca, which is more likely.
Oh.
It's easy to generalize, but like most creature beings, they can learn to live quite amicably side by side.
So I have a question right off the bat that came to my head. Can you
Sure.
use reflexology on animals as well as humans?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Just, as readily as you could use Reiki.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. So now I want to know what reflexology is. So we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I give you a little bit of history?
Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
please.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in the United Kingdom, in the 1800s, there was a physician whose name escapes me at the moment, of course, who was quite interested in what he referred to as the Eastern studies. And this included things like acupressure and acupuncture and so on and so forth. And he began experimenting with willing clients. They often called themselves people of the light for reasons I'm sure you understand. And he would do things like gallbladder removal, childbirth delivery, ear infection, incisions, that kind of thing, using only what he referred to as pressure on zones in the feet. So he distilled from what he was learning an ability to identify connections between the feet and the rest of the body and the organic system, and could in effect use them as anesthetic. So it produced a numbing quality, and certainly people who study acupuncture will tell this as well. Childbirth with an acupuncturist on site is much more pleasant, I understand. Anyway, so he
Too
was
late
he
for
was
us,
doing
Bex.
Yeah. I know.
Too late for
Wish
all
I
of us.
had known.
he studied this for some years, and he had a nurse that got quite interested and was working with him and was providing a lot of the record keeping for the experimenting that he was doing. And in the middle of all of this, the doctor had a massive heart attack and he died. His nurse, however, was so ensconced that she continued the work in his name on his behalf and basically founded what we understand as reflexology now. She did an awful lot of fine tuning, whereas he was worried about specific zones of the feet being attached to general areas of the body. We can fine tune it enough that I can tell you if you've had your gallbladder out or if you've still got your wisdom teeth, completely through the soles of your feet. So
Bonnie Pruden's book? Oh, something. Cindy says she has Bonnie Pruden's book. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
probably in this moment on a Sunday morning, probably not, but generally yes. So essentially, what it is the ability to assess, diagnose, and treat the entire body and all of its systems through the sole of the feet. Now, having said that, like many other things, reflexology is not a cure. The cure comes from within. Reflexology is a set of tools to help you find what is already there. It is a way of reminding the body of what it already knows in terms of how it functions. We are born pretty much perfect. Our bodies understand exactly what they need to do. And between environment and diet and genetics and culture and stress and all the rest of it, we throw things out of whack regularly. The whole point of any kind of body practice is just to remind the body of what it already knows how to do. And there's lots and lots of ways to do that. Some things work better for some people than others. And, I encourage you to experiment with all of them about modalities you have access to find out what combination works for you. And it's not dependent on the practitioner. It is a conversation. It is 25% your willingness to get well, 25% my willingness to help you, and 50% the conversation that your body and you and I are having as we work together.
Oh,
That's
really
beautiful.
cool.
So I just have to ask, because most of my life I had a serious aversion to feet, including not having, I can't have my feet touched. They're so ticklish. So why does it have to be the bottom of the feet? Why can't it be the palms or something like that? Is there something specific about the bottom of the feet that's so important?
Well, it's basically where the meridians start and end, the energy channels that are in your body. However, having said that, yes, you can do some reflexology through the palms of your hands and the backs of your hands, certainly. My own experience is that it is a second choice. It's not as effective as a full treatment through the feet, but it certainly certainly can be very effective. And interestingly enough, I would challenge you to find a reflexologist who's willing to work with you to see if you can try it, because there are people who swear they can't have their feet touched. They're too ticklish. They their feet are too sore. And once they've tried it, they discover that it's actually not at all what they expected, and their feet open right up and accept it.
That's good to know. Yeah, that makes me feel better, because I was like, well, this is something I don't know if I could ever try, but I definitely look into it.
What you need to do is have a phone conversation or an email chat or something with a reflexology in your area and say to them, this is my concern. Are you willing to work with me to address that and to accept the fact if it's just not for me, it's not personal.
Wow.
This is one of the few, I would say, few kind of things besides massage that can't be done online,
Right.
which is unfortunate because it would be quite nice. But it's I know I've experienced Suzanne's things, and it's so it drains the stress right out of you right away.
Wow.
So,
if I may, just to sort of have some fun with what you just said about not doing it online. If you put your hand up, each one of you, and then with finger and thumb, grasp that web of skin between your other finger and thumb. Doesn't matter which hand. You may find that one is more sensitive than the other, so you can play around with that. But poke around until you find the spot that's bruised. It feels taut. Yeah, there you go. You've got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that is scalp tension. If you are having any number of types of headaches, if you've got stiff jaw, pain, that kind of thing, you can work that spot just as it is, as much or as little as you like, until that bruised feeling goes away or the symptoms that you're experiencing do. The other one I would offer you is right at the base of your bird finger. If you push in there, you'll find a spot that's quite spongy. And it'll be just above the bone. That is connected to the nasal passages right here. So if you're having sinus trouble, one of the things you're going to want to do is right there. Now, I use this one, not because, it's important to talk about sinuses so much, as the sole of the foot. If you think of the sole of the foot mimicking the hand, this is the spine. Here you have eyes, ears, sinuses, neck and shoulder stuff, and so on. The hips and knees are over here. The lungs and heart and spleen are up in this area. The bladder will come down. Sorry, I'm backwards on the camera here. The bladder will come down this way. The heel of the foot is all bowel and large intestine stuff, and so on and so on and so forth. So while it's possible to do here, there's a whole lot more room and a lot greater flexibility to do it with the feet, because our hands do a lot of things that our feet don't do. So you can get thrown off a little bit.
Right. I love this one because I saw something about it online once, and I didn't know what it was, but just about a pressure point right here for headaches. And my oldest daughter was having a really bad migraine, her first ever, a couple weeks ago, and I did it on both her hands, and within 20 minutes she was feeling better. So I did reflexology, and I didn't even know. It was very cool.
Well, actually, what you did was acupressure, but you're approaching the same principle as reflexology. So it's I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, it works. It was very cool.
So how different is it from like Qigong, where we also press on points?
I would venture to say that all of the disciplines are related and have crossovers in from one thing to another. Just like acupuncture versus acupressure, right? You're using the same energy channels in the body. One is done with a needle, the other one is done with touch, sometimes even without touch. So they intersect at the points of effectiveness, but the actual modality in terms of what to do with those points of effectiveness can be quite different. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. The crossover, that part helps. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just learning how to work with the energy. Some people work with energy a different way. Everybody finds their own way of working with the energy, but it's all the same purpose of moving it, clearing it, balancing it, right?
Well, I do a lot of palliative work, and the fascinating thing to me is that when a family calls and says, "Can you come and help my grandmother, uncle, husband, whatever? Can you do some massage to help them feel better?" Very often when someone is about to leave this plane, their skin has become quite thin. They would have a very difficult time enjoying any sort of massage. However, the skin on their hands and feet and on their face and neck tend to be the least changed. So I can do a lot with those areas to give them comfort, but also to affect what's going on in the rest of the body without causing the pain of actual massage on the tissue itself.
I love that. So it's less invasive, and yeah, that's beautiful because you can give them a lot of support and comfort that way. I love that.
Absolutely.
Well,
And
I guess
the stories you hear are incredible as well.
Ask you. What do you think have been like some of your most amazing experiences in this?
There was a woman who was in hospital, and a family friend of hers contacted me and said, I know that you do this, but I'm hesitant to ask you because this woman is just plain nasty. And I started to laugh and said, "What do you mean nasty?" She said, "Well, she doesn't have any family left, and she has driven away most of the friends and people in her life. She's ridiculously wealthy. I'm only doing this because she was part of my life growing up and my parents' life, and I don't think that anybody should leave this world alone. But she's got, liver cancer. She's very distended, and there's just nobody. And, short of bringing your soup, I don't know what else to do. But be prepared. If you're willing to do this, she's just as likely to throw you out of the room as anything else." I said, "Okay." So in we went. And, this woman was clearly in a lot of pain, and she gave me one of those "who the hell are you" faces the minute I came in. So I just walked right into the middle of it and said, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. And, this person asked me if I could come and maybe help some of the discomfort that you're in, but I need your permission to do that. I'm not going to come anywhere near you unless you think it's a good idea and you're welcoming it." And she was like, "Oh, well, what do you do?" So I explained a little bit, and she said, "Oh." And the person who had brought me in said, "Judy, you and Suzanne have something in common. She grew up on a farm as well and is quite familiar with a lot of the things that you would have been." And at this point, I was sort of, the woman was on her side, and I was sort of standing behind her a little bit. And I said, "Do you mind if I put my hands on your low back?" And she said, "Well, we'll see. You give it a try." Okay. So I'm working a little bit, and I can feel things relaxing under my hands. I'm thinking, okay, we're getting somewhere. And I said, "Do you mind if I put one of my hands up at the back of your head, just at your neck?" And she said, "Okay." So we were doing that. And then she looks at me over her shoulder, and she said, "Isn't it something, the orchard?" And I said, "Oh, what orchard are you talking about?" She said, "The orchard." I said, "Are you in the orchard right now?" She said, "Yes, of course." I said, "Oh, tell me about the orchard." So she proceeded to describe, a bunch of different apple trees and the way things were changing, and how, as she was moving along the path, what she was seeing was changing and the way that it felt. And then she quieted for a minute. She just looked at me, and I said, "Do you see the end of the orchard from where you're standing?" She said, "Oh, yes." I said, "How does that feel?" She said, "Feels wonderful." I said, Are you ready to keep walking?" She said, "Oh, yes." And I just thought it was the most extraordinary way that a person was taking something from their childhood and processing it in a way that allowed them to accept, to move forward into whatever the next step was. It was very moving. And the person who brought me in just sort of stood there with her mouth open and said, she hasn't said that much to anybody about anything in years. So just goes to show you the power of the energy. Yeah, it was I felt so honored.
I have full goosebumps here. That is amazing.
Yeah.
It was. And that stuff like that happens all the time.
I love that so much. What a blessing it is to be able to do what you do.
It is. I am so thrilled. And every time I try and retire, which I did just before we moved up here 2 years ago, through strange set of circumstances, I found myself practicing again here because I was asked to. And so I'm like, all right,
Right.
I'm going to
Yep.
stop trying to let go.
It's a calling, you know,
Yeah.
that's what you're here for. It's a big part of it. I mean, think about the way that you've been able to change people's lives just by showing up and doing what you do.
Well,
It's
we can all
powerful.
change people's lives by showing up. We just do it in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And Suzanne, would you say when you're working with people that you get something back too? Is it sort of like Reiki where you kind of get when the energy's flowing through you, you get the leftovers and you feel like recharged and redone?
Well, there's a couple of answers to that question. In all the years that I've been doing this, and no matter what modality I've been practicing, I always feel like everyone who's been on my table teaches me something. So there's that aspect. I benefit that way, and I will jokingly say, you know, to somebody who's new on the table for the first time, well, you're not just getting me, you're getting the 500 and some odd people who've been on that table before you. And I don't mean that I haven't changed the sheets. I just mean that, you know, they're there.
Yep.
So, you know, this is a very universal thing. And the other thing is that when I've done a treatment that has achieved what the person and myself set out to do, it is such a feeling of humility and gratitude afterwards. It's like, damn, that worked so well. So, and in 25 years, I've never lost that. I've never lost sight of the fact that it is such a conversation.
So you must enjoy getting people that are skeptical on your table that are in fairly good health, like not at the end of life, because palliative's different. That's a different mission, kind of in a way, right? It's a different mission. It's letting them transition onto the light, and it's a big mission, but it's a different mission than just helping someone live day to day. So do you have a story about someone who came and said, well, my wife made me do it, or my partner made me do it, or whatever made me do it, and so here I am.
My favorite recent one, and you're right, it happens all the time, and I do get a perverse pleasure out of you know, convincing somebody, but always at their behest. I work part-time on call as in medical triage at a medical center not far from here, and of course, you know, Western physicians can be a little bit iffy about some things. I mean, this team is particularly wonderful as it happens, but one of them was having great difficulty with neck stuff one day, having tripped over a dog or something on the weekend, and she said, she came forward. She said, "Can I see you in my office for a minute?" I'm like, "Sure." So we go back, and she said, "Now I hear you can do things. I have a really sore neck, and I can't afford to take drugs right now, or I won't be awake enough to help my own patients. Is there anything you would suggest?" And I said, "Can I put my hands on you?" She said, "Sure." So we worked for about 5 minutes, and she said, "Oh my God, I'm sweating like crazy." And I said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yep." I said, "No dizziness or nausea?" She said, "Nope." I said, "Okay, give me another minute or so. Okay, now I want you to take a deep breath. I'm going to take my hands off you, and I want you to let that breath all go." And she sat there very quietly for a minute, and she went, "It's gone." And I was like,
Love that.
I love it, especially
So
when you
it-
can do it to a doctor. It's great.
exactly. And what that's meant, I mean, I wasn't soliciting business by any means or anything like that, but what it has since meant is word got around, and the nurse practitioners in particular at this organization are just fabulous, and they work themselves silly, but they won't hesitate to take a minute and come and say, you know, my arm is really sore, or my neck is really sore, or I've got a headache. Can you do anything? And, you know, 9 times out of 10, I can. So it's wonderful to have that trust.
Yeah, and it's like you were placed there for a reason, right?
You think?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's great.
Very cool.
It's fun. Like we're all little points of light anchored in all little different places, right? And
Absolutely.
that's where we see. So
You start connecting those points of light and you get magic.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's what we like to do here is connect points of light. 'Cause that's what we find.
You're
So
doing a great job.
Thank you. Do you ever use essential oils when you use a reflexology? Can you use them in combination? It's one of my questions.
That's a good question.
Yeah, you can. I don't use them a lot in my reflexology practice. I do use them a lot in massage for direct muscle stimulation and comfort. With reflexology, it is more the pressure and the energy that's important. If I mean the stuff that I use actually for reflexology currently comes from someone that I know in Dundas who has a lavender farm, and it's a lovely omega-3 hemp cream infused with local lavender and a little bit of honey. That's what I use traditionally for reflexology because it has such a wonderful effect. I don't care for the smell of lavender myself, but lavender is a middle note on the aromatherapy scale, and it will balance any extremes that are going on. So I find it quite helpful that way.
Okay.
Certainly in massage, a lot more essential oils.
That cream sounds amazing. It's like, oh, sounds beautiful.
Well, and it's wonderful to know where the stuff comes from. To
Yeah,
be able to say
absolutely.
to somebody, I stood in the field where this was picked.
That's awesome. So you're working now at your home. You haven't got bees yet, have you?
No, we don't, and I'm a little hesitant to go that route. Partly because there are some wonderful beekeepers in the area. Partly because the more research I do, the more I realize what could go wrong, and I don't know that I have the time to devote to the bees that they would need. So, in compensation, we've just let our back acres go completely wild and strewn them with wildflower seeds, and give them a safe place to hang out.
That's awesome. But you have
Yeah.
chickens.
Chickens.
Yeah, we have chickens.
That's fun.
Chickens are fun.
We've got 13 girls who were about the size of my thumb when they came to us, and they're now
Aw.
they look like small turkeys, and they're laying like crazy.
Wow.
That's cool. That's cool.
Very cool.
So, in your business, you've brought lots of people in because we are a small place. So have you seen a change in your clientele, or from Dundas? Like, do you have to explain a lot more, or how do people come knowing what you do, or some people are just like, haven't got a clue, got to tell me.
Well, because we were in the Hamilton area and Winnipeg for extended periods of time, and we've been here not quite 2 years. Back there, word of mouth spread, and that was my best advertisement. So I didn't have to explain myself a whole lot, but was always happy to tell the story. Here, because I wasn't planning on practicing at all, it's just very interesting to me to leave it open and see who shows up and why. And sometimes it's the kindnesses of people like Rhonda who've said, yeah, you should go see this person. Or other times it's, somebody's been talking to somebody and said, I've heard the term, but I have no idea what it means. Can you explain what reflexology is, or massage, or ear candling, or Reiki? So I don't know if that answers your question so much, but there's always going to be people who get it. There's always going to be people who want to get it. And there's always going to be people who never get it, but try anyway.
Yeah. And that's the fun part, right? Like,
It
so
is.
have you had any success with, like, I don't know, like tangible, when they get on the table, their nose is all stuffed up, and when they get off the table, they're not.
Oh, completely. Yeah, that's one of the easiest fixes, actually.
And that's one we can do on our hands too.
Yes. You can feel it
Absolutely.
draining when you do that. You can feel the sinuses drain right down the back of your throat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
It's fun. Women, of course, tend to be more open to this stuff than men do initially, but in working with men, sometimes when I finish with the feet, if I just want to reinforce something a little bit, I'll ask permission to come up and work around the head and face. And 99.9% of the time, if it's a male person, they're like, "Oh my God, that feels good. Nobody has ever worked on my head and face." So that's the only gender difference I would notice. Women are okay about that. Men are just like, "Oh God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Why am I only hearing about it now?"
Right.
So we've done them a disservice by not getting them involved sooner.
True. Very true. Do you find that when you work on yourself that you have sometimes a little bit of like it doesn't quite work as effectively? Like with Reiki, when I try to do it on myself, sometimes I don't feel it as much.
Yeah, I rarely work on myself.
Okay.
I find there's just too much of a barrier there for me. I'm not quite sure. I've never figured out what that's about, but I'm
Yeah.
fortunate enough that there is a massage therapist just down the road from me who is also semi-retired. So we
Okay.
swap treatments every so often, and that works really well.
That's awesome. Very cool.
I akin it to it's really hard to tickle yourself.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's also like I can it never feels as good as when somebody else
No,
does it.
never.
I mean, I'll Reiki myself if I have to, and I do Reiki myself every day for the self healing, and I find that that's okay, I can do that. But other things like massage and that, it's something that you have to actually give yourself permission to go do, so it works better. I think that's what it is.
And it's also nice when you can alleviate your own need to focus on it and let that be somebody else's problem, and you're just in a position of reception. And I think that's the thing that I find the hardest for me. I don't receive from myself particularly well.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that too, because you have to think about how you're going to do it, what points you're going to push on, what it's for. You have to kind of map it out. And as you're doing it, you can't be really receptive if you're having to put so much, energy into doing all of that. And I think with Reiki too, it's like you have to get in that space where you're, being the channel, but also being the receiver. And it kind of gets lost in translation between.
We always say it works better. It feels, it's like when you open yourself up to receive, then you're giving yourself deep permission to receive.
Yes.
So if you have to go and do that, you've already crossed that barrier. I can receive. So that's okay. We're such givers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's also a point, like if, I think, as much as it may sometimes feel like there's a flaw in the design, it's perfect, because if we spend all of our time giving to ourselves, and receiving from ourselves, we wouldn't have as much interaction with others and giving them the opportunity to give as well. So it's a perfect system.
It's very important to give people the opportunity to give the best of themselves. And if you expect the best of them, chances are that's what you're going to get.
Absolutely. This is fascinating. I love it.
So what is the favorite part? You like feet. Obviously, you think you had to have not a fetish, but you had to have, like, some people hate touching feet. Like some people hate touching feet.
That's me.
Yeah.
I can touch anyone's feet, but I think I love feet. I love everybody's feet. I don't care what they look like.
Well, reflexology came as a secondary discipline to me. I did acupuncture and massage first. And the reflexology came because I wanted to be able to offer people the choice of modalities, but also because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of palliative work and a lot of work with people who had body dysmorphias of various kinds, people who had amputations or who had severe burn scars, that kind of thing. And I wanted to offer them something that didn't involve the body, that if they wanted to progress into full body work at some point, they could, but we could start with something that was distant enough. I mean, literally, I'm at the other end of your body and you're looking right at me the entire time, which makes it safe, so that I could watch their face, they could watch mine, and we could work together on what was going on. So I don't have any particular affinity for feet, except for the fact that it's often the safest starting place for someone who's never had body work before.
Absolutely.
That's true.
I love that.
We're so disconnected from our feet too.
Yes.
A lot of people are, and we've made ourselves disconnected from the ground by wearing shoes, and then we're disconnected.
And we forget how much our feet go through. It's not just walking steps. It's jamming on brake pedals, and it's standing on tippy toe to reach something from the cupboard, and it's rocking back on your heels when, the dog is pulling you in the wrong direction. I mean, and as we age, or if our weight changes, I mean, our feet change too. And we don't give them enough credit for everything we put them through.
That's true. Stubbing toes all the time. Yeah, they get beat. That moment when you just get that blind pain. But yeah. And it's,
there's that expression that the only reason we have little toes on our feet is to remind us of where the furniture is.
Exactly. I did that not that long ago, and it was brutal. But yeah, I mean, it gives you appreciation, right, for being able to, even have feet to stub. But I think, even, the whole thing with motherhood, especially like your feet, you gain a size or half a size or something with every pregnancy and things like that. Like they do really go through so much. It's crazy, but you know, it's being able to learn to reconnect with that part of your body. So I think it's beautiful what you do, even though I have a little bit of a apprehensiveness with feet. But I think that it would be an amazing experience to have it, to do reflexology.
Do we have time for a short story?
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. This is my very favorite reflexology story because it's quite personal. When I was a student, so quite a while ago, I needed to do a series of case studies, and friends were terrific at volunteering for that. So the idea was I needed to do 50 people over a period of 6 months, with a minimum of 3 follow-up visits each, and so on and so forth, to track progress. And anyway, so a friend that I'd known for quite some time came over and said, would you mind doing a reflexology session for me? I said, no, as long as I can use it as a case study, sure. Okay. So we're just sitting on opposite ends of the couch at this point. She's got her feet in my lap, and I'm working away, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Now, remember, I'm a student. And I said to her, when's the last time you saw your doctor? She said, just a few days ago. Why? I said, well, there's something going on in the area of your uterus and your womb, and I don't know what it is. It doesn't feel like a tumor. It doesn't feel like scar tissue. It doesn't feel like any kind of lactic acid buildup. I'm, and it feels quite wonderful, whatever it is. And she looked across the room at her husband, who ducked behind the newspaper, and she said, well, we weren't going to tell anybody until we were 3 months along, but we're pregnant.
Oh,
I love that.
Isn't that amazing?
It was, and I got to track the entire pregnancy week by week by week, right through until that child was born. The backstory on this is that his mother takes medications that are not conducive to someone getting pregnant in the first place, and let alone keeping the child to full term, let alone having a child who is born healthy. And she and her husband decided after long negotiation that they would take this risk. And that kid, because of the things they did, and like I say, it was such fun for me to find and to follow. He is just stupid healthy and 6'5", and
wow.
And the fun part is, I got to be involved in his life as he grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I went over to visit, I either had his feet or his head in my lap, and he would be like, would you please? And those feet are like size 13 now.
Holy
And I only see him once or twice a year, but within the first 5 minutes of conversation, his feet are in my laps. It's a lovely full circle.
Yeah, that's great. You got to meet him, right after he was discovered, I guess. That's so crazy.
And 45 minutes after he entered the world, his parents called and said, come meet our son.
That's beautiful.
It was amazing. But that's my favorite. That's my favorite reflexology story.
Yeah, I think that's pretty perfect. I love that.
That's pretty amazing to be able to even. Yeah, that's so cool. That's
well, and here's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one that you can do for yourself. If you grab either side of your ankle behind the Achilles tendon, you'll feel a couple of spots, one on each side. And those are connected to the ovaries and uterus. So if you've got somebody in your life who's going through menstrual cramps or has just had a hysterectomy, those are the points to work.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's really cool. Well, thank you so much, Suzanne. We've had so much fun. Now, tell us a little bit of how people in our area, which is Eastern Ontario, because people, if you're within 2 or 3 hours, you should come and visit Suzanne. I don't care where you are. You can't get this anywhere else. And then you'll be visiting the beautiful Rideau Lakes. You can make a whole day of it because we live in God's country here too. So,
we do. We really do.
New Hampshire, Tennessee, it's all God's country there, but yeah, we live in the cooler God's country. So, as in cooler temperatures, maybe not cooler than, but yeah. We don't have mountains here, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I work part-time. I work from home, so I'm here in the village of Portland or just outside of it. If someone is ill or infirm or can't get to me, I can usually find a way to get to them, particularly for reflexology, because I don't need to take a lot with me. But yeah, just you can find me on Facebook. You can text or call my number 289-244-8008. We can always have a conversation about it before you decide if you want to do anything. I'm totally fine with that. This has got to be voluntary, or there's no point.
Yeah.
Melinda, I was thinking of you. She said, sounds like a road trip. She lives in Pembroke, and she's going to come down.
Well, that's not far.
No, it's not far. And I said she could come down, visit you, and then we'll do our CE5. If you want to come to CE5 at my house.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, dude. We're going to do some CE5.
I don't know what that is, but I'll get some information from you.
It's fun.
It's fun. Okay. It's where we communicate back up to the aliens.
Awesome.
And call them in.
So
yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be great fun.
Yeah. Now, if someone isn't able to get to you physically or anything like that, is there anything that you can do to help teach people what points to hit for specific things online? Yes.
Yeah, I can do some of that. There are, countless websites out there with maps of the feet and where things are supposed to be, and nothing is going to beat the actual reality. But there are always things that you can do for yourself based on even that little bit of information. The only proviso I would say is that if you have alcohol in your system, or a chemotherapy drug, or are newly pregnant, that you not mess around, because those three things can be quite dangerous. Diabetics and heart stuff as well have to be handled very carefully, because you can involuntarily move around a bunch of lymph tissue and actually take someone into myocardial infarction, and we don't want to do that. Wow. So that takes a trained person. But short of those few things, there's all kinds of things you can do for yourself. And I encourage you to research and try.
Yeah, even if it's just pressing on your sore spot in your head. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Play with your feet.
I know they're
well, and even if you get, whoever is in your life, whether it's a partner or a spouse or a kid, that you need to negotiate, you need a little leverage with.
Right.
Just have them put a towel on their lap, put your feet in their lap, put on some nice, lovely, innocuous cream, and let them experiment. At the very, very, very least, what you're getting is a beautiful connection of touch. You're not going to go wrong.
No, I love that.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, very cool. Do I ask the questions now?
Yes, you can ask.
Okay, are you ready?
Now, yeah. You can ask the
okay, first question. If you had to choose a song to be the theme song of your life, what would it be?
Well, we talked about this a little bit the other day, and I wrote down a couple of possibilities. Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon.
Love that one.
I'm Still Standing by Elton John. But more than anything, probably In My Life, which was written by John Lennon, but Bette Midler does a fabulous job of.
Oh, I haven't heard hers.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Do. It's magnificent.
Beautiful. Good choices. All right. Second question is, what is your favorite crystal that you're working with right now? Oh.
I just happen to have it handy. It's I don't know how well you can see.
Yeah, we can see that.
It's a malachite, and it's a mind the cat behind me.
That's okay. We're cat lovers. We're
good. It fits in my hand just so, and is great for meditation and grounding and getting in touch with your dreams. Yeah, very healing, very very balancing.
I love that. Good choice on that too. All right, the last question is: have you ever experienced extra-dimensional intelligence?
I can't answer that with any certainty. I can answer that with the instinct that yes, I have, and wasn't aware of it at the time. There have been moments in my life where things have happened that I know are not of this world, but what they are of or where they're coming from, I am I don't have enough information to make that guess. It would take people like you who are far more educated in this regard than I am. But
We
I
learn from
suspect so.
experience, though. So any experience you had, just trust it. You know,
So
absolutely.
my answer is that I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which to us is yes. That's a yes. Just go
Okay.
with it.
Yeah. So far, we're batting 100%.
We
Yeah.
are.
Yay!
Everyone has had an experience. And that's the thing is that, as much as we're waiting for big disclosure, we realize that disclosure is actually happening person to person, soul to soul. We're all sharing our experiences.
I can't imagine that we could actually be arrogant enough to think that we are the
Right.
only intelligent life in a very vast universe, and
Absolutely.
that as we are looking outward, somebody else has been trying to look in.
Mhm.
It's got to be there. It would be just ludicrous to think that we're it. I refuse to believe that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even with the creatures we share the earth with, we found out they're a lot more smart, a lot smarter than we ever gave them credit for.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And there's so much that we don't even see that's right around us all the time. So
Well, and that's part of it is the levels of awareness as we awaken, and I think some of that happens as we get older and we let go of some of the superfluous crap.
right.
There's a little more room for attention to things that we may not have seen or felt before.
Absolutely.
That's an absolute joy. I mean,
Yeah.
to live long enough to be able to do that naturally, and then have the opportunity to foster it intentionally as we are here.
Yes.
It's incredible.
well, that gives me chills
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming
You
to hang out
too.
with us today.
Thanks.
been
Thanks.
Oh,
absolutely beautiful.
it's been a blast. Thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks
so I just
again. Okay, go ahead.
No,
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say
I
the
was just
winner
gonna
real
say-
quick.
Oh, yep, no problem.
Okay, so the winner of this week's Share It Out, who wins a session with me, is Linda Love. Congratulations. Whoever shares out
Woo!
this episode the most will win a session with Teresa. We'll announce that next week, so make sure you guys share this out. Invite your friends. And, these are such amazing conversations. We get to meet the most amazing people. So you guys, we're so blessed, to do what we do and experience these Sunday meetings and hangouts with you guys. So thank you so much. And Rhonda, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, if you want to find out, like every week, I put the guest information in the
Yes.
video, so you can find it here or find it in the intro in the YouTube. So it'll be on both places for you to find. So,
Fantastic. Thank you, Rhonda.
you're welcome, and thanks very much. And we'll take it out with this, I hope. So, see you later. See you next week.
Namaste.
Bye bye.